Welcome to Becoming Parents podcast. I'm your host, Jenn Taylor Campbell. I'm a birth and bereavement doula, as well as an adoption and surrogacy doula. Doula means woman who serves. And although I love happy births, adoptions, and surrogacy, the pro bono part of my business is in bereavement. I'm here to help you. I'm also mom of 18, yes, 18 children, with over 30 years experience in the trenches as a mom myself. We have a huge blended family, and I've also experienced the loss of our adult son. Remember, give a shout out to those brave enough to share their stories on how they have become parents. Let's dive in. Welcome to Becoming Parents. I'm your host, Jenn Taylor, and today I'm here with Tiffany Alvarez. And I, air quotes, know Tiffany because I creepy, sexy cyber stalk on Facebook groups where there are women who have lost babies because it's part of my business. And Tiffany, you have a Facebook group called Miscarriage Breaking the Silence that you've had since 2017. So it's not new. You have a big following. Tell me about how that started. Like, bring me up to the starting point of that, because your story is going to be pretty emotional.
Yes, already is a little bit. I started it in 2017 after we had our first loss. It was just kind of more of an idea from a family member, just for a way for myself to have an outlet for my losses, or for my loss at that time. So it wasn't really something that I was like super like, I'm gonna do this right now. It was more like somebody gave me the idea and I was like, you know what? Yeah, because I'm not the only one. Like, even just me having that first loss, I found out like so many of my family members that had lost babies as well. So it was just a way for me to kind of voice what I was going through. And then it ended up being kind of like people, telling me as well what they had been going through too.
I think there's a lot of things in life that until you go through it, you have no idea. And once you
Yeah.
go through it, like for women with miscarriage, when you go through it, you realize nobody's talking about it. You're kind of
Mhm.
treated like you just need to walk it off, like just go on with your life. It's not considered like I lost a son at 23 years old. Miscarriage is
Mhm.
nothing like that. It's not treated like that. You're not emotionally supported. The doctors don't even know. I don't know that they know who to send you to, or if there's someone specific. I mean, like, women keep it hush hush. Doctors are kind of like, see you next time. Did you get pregnant naturally that first time? Have you ever gone through
Yeah.
infertility? Yeah. Okay. So you got pregnant
No,
naturally.
it was all natural. Like me, I actually honestly didn't think I could have kids, because with past boyfriends like that I had been with for long periods, like we didn't use protection and I never got pregnant. And then I was with my current boyfriend now, who is the father of all three of my kids, and we got pregnant. So it was like, yeah, I honestly didn't even think I could the first time I did get pregnant.
So I mean, I think we hear a lot more about miscarriage. I went through infertility and I had three. When infertility is involved, it's almost expected. You have a much higher
Yeah.
chance of having a miscarriage, but yours was in the second trimester.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
far along
Um,
were you that first time?
so the first time with David, we were 17 weeks. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So it was about 17 weeks, like just like on the cusp of it. And then it ended up with all three of them were all second trimester, like second trimester. And like gradually we ended up getting a little bit further, like a week or two each time, but still
Oh,
haven't yet made it.
there there are a couple issues with this, and one is until 20 weeks you don't get a recognition of birth or a death certificate, so you don't go through that process. They don't really recognize it yet up till 20 weeks,
Yeah.
and so um there's no real closure. And they don't have, in my experience, for correct me if I'm wrong, in your experience, they don't give you options when did you go to the hospital to miscarry?
So with our first one, David, I did not. I actually, honestly, I didn't even know I was having a miscarriage. I didn't have any prior bleeding or anything. I know the night before I didn't feel good. Um, but then I woke up in the middle and I actually lost him at home.
Okay.
So that was a whole traumatic experience from the other two. Obviously, because I lost him at home. So we had to go to the emergency room. The hospital we went to for that experience was very traumatizing. Like it was literally just like miscarriages happen. Like, sorry. Like that's pretty much how it was for that one. For the other two though, for our second son Ray and our daughter Lola, who is our recent one in 2020, those two, the experience, I mean, given the circumstances, was much better. The hospital we went to, I ended up having them there at the hospital, because the second one I refused to go home, and the third one they just ended up admitting me. So sorry, my cat's trying to get in our conversation.
I love the cat. It's so on that first one. So here's the thing. Women don't know that you can miscarry and bring that miscarriage. Basically, like for me in the state of Nevada, the mortuary that I work here with really closely, it's about 14 weeks that they can cremate and get any remains back, right? But you
Yeah.
are further along than that, and most of the time, because these are hard conversations, first of all, so I'm probably going to have to trigger warning everyone, but a baby before 20 weeks is considered medical waste. It is a fetus, there's a
Yeah.
baby there, looks
Mhm.
like a baby, but as far
Yeah.
as how they process that miscarriage up until 20 weeks, it's medical waste. And what they do with
Yeah.
medical waste, in my experience, so if you have different information, I want you to jump in, but they autoclave it, and an
Mhm.
autoclave is just a massive sterilization unit. And
Right.
that's how they sterilize all instruments for surgery, for everything, right? They autoclave the tissue to kill all bloodborne pathogens. And once that's done, they can dump it in the landfill. It's like compost or
Yeah.
anything else.
That's what I imagine happened to our first one. Like I said, we lost him at home, so we took him with us to the hospital and basically a towel.
Yep.
Um, so they once they took him, I don't know what they did with him.
Right.
Our second one at the hospital, like I had him with me, and then I guess they were gonna do an odd like some kind of work like lab with stuff on him or whatever
Right.
to see if they could figure it all out.
Right.
With our last one, because she was a little bit further, like we got a little bit more information and we got her cremated. So we actually have her with us.
Okay, so that's the stuff that's not discussed. If you have a miscarriage up to
Mm-mm.
that 14-week point, like I personally know of people who do the cremation process with lower
Yeah.
heat. So no, you can be 6 weeks pregnant and have your baby cremated.
Well, yeah. See, no one, they don't tell you
Right,
this kind of stuff.
right, right.
Like the
No,
second hospital I went to, they did tell us, well, they gave paperwork, but it's like when you're going through a thing, you don't want to read through paperwork to see that stuff.
right. You
Like,
want somebody to come into your
yeah,
room and say,
and
"Hey,
tell
you
you.
have some options here, and these are options."
Yeah.
I want to get your feeling on this, because in my experience, it's almost impossible for women to process grief if they haven't processed the birth. And with miscarriage, you never really
Mhm.
get to process the birth, right? You gave birth and you
It's,
have a
yes,
baby. So
it's
you're
true. Yeah.
in a constant state of grief and loss that you can't do
My
anything
first
with.
one, yeah, our first one was definitely the hardest for me because like it just happened. Like
Yeah.
the second and the third, like well, I knew like after certain things happened, I knew it was happening. And I think the fact that I had them in the house, like our second one, I was induced, at the hospital to have him
Okay.
there. And then with Lola, I I knew it was happening because I just from like my medical issues, like from the bleeding and stuff like that, like I knew what was happening as well. So it's like, and then sending me up, and I was put into the high risk labor and delivery. So like I knew what was happening. I knew I was going to be delivering them. So like having them at the hospital is a whole lot different from like having the miscarriages at home.
Well, I think the
Like you
first time
don't,
you're terrified too. You don't really,
oh yeah, definitely.
And you feel
Yeah.
like you're supposed to go to the medical team to help you figure it out and take care of it, and then they kind of blow you off.
Yeah. I mean, I got lucky that I found a doctor who was very understanding of everything, and wasn't afraid to like ask for tests for me and lab stuff. Like she wasn't afraid to do that. And hopefully, when we do decide to try again, like I'm able to get her again because she does know my history. She's been there for all three of them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And because usually, again, until you hit over 20 weeks, they don't offer testing. Basically, in a miscarriage, you as the woman who just has gone through a very traumatic loss, you
Hmm.
have to advocate for yourself in a way, and you
Yeah.
don't even know what questions to ask. You don't even know what options there are, right? And so, like
Hmm.
those first two babies, in my opinion, someone should have said, I know this is traumatic, but you have some choices. You have the ability to take the remains to the hospital, to the mortuary. We can transfer the remains to the mortuary, and this is the cost to cremate if there is a cost, because you're over 14 weeks every single time. Like, there shouldn't even be a
Yeah.
question, right? So that
No,
you
there
get
shouldn't
to
be.
process it. They can get footprints that far along. One thing I want to point out that you have done that most women don't do, you've named them all.
Yes. Yeah.
Did
All three
you
of them. Even go ahead.
did you
Sorry.
know to do that in the beginning, or was that later that you did that?
No, so with David and Lola, we had their names picked out beforehand.
Mm.
With Ray, we weren't sure what we had names picked out, but we didn't know what we were having until we had him so I had him at the hospital. So we already had a name for him picked out.
Most women don't name the baby, and that makes a big difference in, like, it's a terrible
Yeah, definitely.
situation. It's a terrible situation. So,
Yeah.
in that terrible situation, there are things that you can do to make it better. You started the
Hmm.
group after you lost Ray, and
David.
I'm sorry, David was the first one. I
Yes, yeah.
apologize. So
No.
you lost David, and um you started this, it's kind of like a blog, but it's a
Kinda, yeah.
page. I mean,
Hmm.
you're kind of tracking your journey with that
Yeah.
first loss in 2017. So tell me
Hmm.
what happened with that page, with the group that you have, and how that started to grow and the feedback you started to get, because I'm hoping that you you're a resource to other women, and I'm hoping that has continued to do that and has helped you. So jump in and talk to me about the page, the group.
Yeah. So in the beginning, like I said, it honestly wasn't something that I was super like into because I was going through obviously all the emotions of just losing him. But I did definitely want to use it as something that I could try to like just in the beginning it was more for me to voice my opinion and what I was going through, Reno. And then when we started trying again, like, trying to get other people's like advice, like what they were doing, and it gradually over the years has become me like same thing, kind of like saying my journey, but also trying to give other people hope.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for myself, like even with everything, like we haven't given up.
And I know you talk about that on your page, and yeah, I feel you. Holy cow. And I mean, that's how I found you, because it was there for other women.
Yeah.
Um, and women post their information. I reached out to you personally, like, can I post information? What can I post? What are the
Yeah.
and that's how we met and started talking. But the more I think we share this, the more, I mean, it helps us to share the story. I know when I've shared
Yeah.
my story, it's like, it's very cathartic. And then also you're helping people, and then you're encouraging them. And holy cow, people don't realize yet how strong and brave you are, because you've had these 3 miscarriages, and you haven't had a rainbow baby. You have no
Yeah.
living children.
Hmm.
And yet,
Yeah. I try just because, like I said, like I even for because I mean, obviously, like when you've had losses, like you do feel, unfortunately, like some type of like envy and jealousy towards the people who have.
yeah.
So like another goal of mine is just to kind of like, even for myself, like it's helped me to grow too, to like not feel that way. Because like, especially towards like people like us who have had those losses, like we shouldn't, I don't feel like we should be feeling like any envy or jealousy towards them. We should be like, happy for them, like beyond happy because we know what they've gone through.
It's really hard to separate all of that out. I mean, kudos for
Yeah.
really feeling like you want to, because feeling overwhelmed and sad doesn't mean that you're not happy for the other person.
Hmm.
Also, I think it's important for women for what you've gone through to set boundaries and emotionally, how much you're able to show up for another woman. Again, doesn't mean you aren't not you
Yeah.
can be happy for them and support them, and also keep boundaries on your own emotions and space and stuff. And that's a really challenging thing to work through.
Yeah.
Um, I know when I started going down this path, uh, to help women, I didn't realize there are so many holidays. I know this is a really silly thing,
Yeah.
but there are, like, I have a list, and remind me, I'll send you what I have so we can compare notes. But there are a lot of
Yeah.
holidays that I don't want to use the word celebrate, but recognize moms and dads who have gone through infertility, prematurity, infant
Yeah.
loss. Like the whole month of October is for that. And there are really ways. There's like Hearts Release. Um, there are all kinds of things that get done. And one thing I want to ask is, I know you have the Facebook group. What
Hmm.
else do you do to process your own grief?
Honestly, I just have family.
Okay.
A lot of people told me maybe counseling, but I feel like I have a very good, I mean, my mom in general, she's been my like strongest person. She
Oh,
actually lost our oldest sister when she was 7 months old, or 7 months
pregnant.
pregnant. Yeah. So she's been and she actually had, which is, it's not genetic, but the same um incompetent cervix. So she had to get the cerclage as well when she was pregnant with me, my middle sister, and myself after she lost my our oldest sister, which is one of the issues that I have as well. So we have that in common, and she's just been, just the fact that she's been there for me the whole time. I mean, that honestly, she's been the best person I've had for this whole journey.
That's incredible. Okay, I have a couple
Yeah.
questions. Do your
Okay.
sisters have the same issues?
So no, our oldest sister, that's the one that she lost. And then my other sister, she no, she
No, no
hasn't had
problem.
any issues like that. No.
Okay. I
She's had a
I
miscarriage, but it wasn't anything that they got like figured out. It was just an early miscarriage.
okay. Does she have kids other than that?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
she has two.
Genetics are a crazy thing, because I know a lot of it ran in my family, so I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised. I mean, I kind of knew right before I was 16, like I was probably going to have trouble and have a higher rate of miscarriage. And my sister and I definitely, we both gave birth, but we both also
Hmm.
suffered she suffered more miscarriages than I did. And
Hmm.
with the four girls I gave birth to, two of
Yeah.
them uh, probably, quite possibly, will not be able to have kids. And so it's a really hard
Mhm.
thing as a mom too, like with your mom, knowing what she went through and that she was still
Yeah.
able to get it. Like, it's a really, really hard thing. You kind of, as a mom, feel like I did this to you, even though you
Yeah.
didn't, right? So I'm so glad
Yeah.
that
That
she's
was
there.
that was definitely something we had to get um when we found out that I had the same, pretty much the same issue as her. That was something that we had to get figured out, because she did think that like I got that from her.
And I mean, technically you
But like
did, but
we didn't.
no.
Yeah, yeah. Technically, yes, but no, like they said, like Jen, like, no, like you don't, that's not something like, like diabetes runs in the family, something like that. Like it doesn't
Right.
like run in the family to have that.
Now I want to talk about
So
that. So
Okay.
the doctors started doing testing on the baby, the second loss.
Mhm.
Is that
The
correct?
so after the first one they did, my personal doctor, she did some blood work on me, and tried to get what she could from the other hospital because it was a totally different hospital than what I went to than when I went to the emergency room. I don't know why, maybe it's just to heat the moment, but she did stuff on him, and then that's how they found out that I had a blood clotting disorder that
Oh, wow.
basically only comes when I'm pregnant. So something about when I'm pregnant, it caused me to have easier I get blood clots easier.
Okay.
So, and it's usually is what caused me to like bleed during my pregnancies, and like for our last one it caused me the placenta to separate.
So they're figuring out what the issues are,
Yeah. Mm,
and yet
slowly.
isn't that like that's the worst
Yeah.
thing.
It's
Was there anything wrong with any of the babies? Was there any
no,
indication? Okay, so that part's
they
fine.
were all perfect. It's just so like I said, like we figured out like over the time, like, and that is kind of what the hardest thing is, like, because each time we've kind of thought like, okay, we figured it out, and then we have it, and then it's like, okay, we figured it out, and then we have it. So like the first one, obviously we didn't know what was gonna happen, so nothing was figured out. The second time, like, okay, you have blood clots. We'll put you on Lovenox. So I took Lovenox shots, and had no bleeding. It's perfect. Everything went fine. Still lost him at 18 weeks. So then from that, they're like, okay, well, you've lost two early trimester, like you weren't bleeding. We think you have an incompetent cervix. So the next time we're gonna sew you up.
Right, right,
So
right. Which
yeah, so with Lola, they did this,
sewed up the
did their
cervix.
cerclage.
Right.
Yep, they did my cerclage, and she stayed in there, but then I had the bleeding.
Yeah.
So, which ended up causing me to get the blood clots separated, the placenta from uterus, so on, and end up losing her as well.
I mean, no matter how much they sew things up, if the placenta separates,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the so you here's the thing that I think is crazy.
Mhm.
You started the group, and I get why a lot of us start something when we've gone through something traumatic
Yeah,
because we need
yeah.
to work through
It's
it
like
and
an
we want to help.
outlet.
Right.
Yeah.
And we want to help other women. So it's kind of twofold. So I
Mhm.
totally like that's awesome. However, it means you're working with and talking to women like constantly since
Mhm.
2017 who are also going through loss. And that can be hard. And then you're a preschool director.
Yeah,
And when I learned that, like when I got your information, I learned that I
yeah.
was like, how? How are you doing that?
It's it has its moments, especially after the losses going back to work. Um, that was tricky. But it definitely, I feel, even though it was hard, I feel like it helped me more because I was still, I mean, for me, I felt like I had to go back to work, even if it was going to be hard because it would help to sidetrack my mind. Being around babies, of course, was very hard, but
Yeah.
it also was comforting in a way for me.
Okay.
So, I mean, I know everybody's probably way different because I know just from people that have, because I do have people like message me and comment and stuff like that. And like they're saying, like, I can't even be around my family's kids. Like, I can't even imagine like being around other babies. Like, it's just not something I can do. So, I mean, I guess that just kind of just shows like, how everybody just deals with things differently. And
Process.
for me,
Yeah.
going back to work and being around like the kids and the babies, like it helped me somehow. I don't know how, but it did.
I think it's amazing. I think it shows you're right. We all do it differently, but it shows how strong you are. And I mean, aren't babies like all the hope we have? We put all this
Yeah.
like hope and joy and into that possibility. But I still think it's phenomenal that that's something that you've continued to do and that
Mhm.
actually makes it better for you. When
Yeah.
when you how did you have the option to cremate the third time? And were you mad that you didn't have the option the first two?
Yes, I was very upset because I could have very well had them at home with me like I do her. I think the reason why I ended up discovering that option, because I probably got the same paperwork for the second and the third.
Okay.
But the third time we were in the hospital for, they kept me for like 3 or 4 days because that was also the beginning of COVID.
Okay.
So when things were still like
Yeah.
not COVID, but
Yeah.
COVID. So
Yeah.
they kept me there for like monitoring and everything like that because nobody knew what was going on. So I had more time to sit there in the hospital and actually like look over all the paperwork they gave me. And seeing that there was places that actually do like cremate your babies, like, and you can take them home with you. So that was something that like I said, I do wish I would have done it for the other two, but I'm glad at least I was able to have it for at least one of them.
Um, I mean, it just shouldn't, it's great that they're giving paperwork. It's great that they're giving anything, but
It definitely should though have people coming and talking to you about it. Because they
yes.
have like when you're there, they have like all the nurses and people come in, like counselors. They have chaplains come in and see you, priests and stuff like that for whatever religion you are.
Right.
And you know, I they definitely should have somebody saying like, here are your options of what to do with your child.
Right.
Because, I definitely was after, especially after three, someone came into my room and, you know, if they didn't correctly call just my daughter what her name was, then I would definitely correct them. Because, yeah, I mean, yes, if, like you said, they don't really consider it a viable thing
Right.
until 20 to 24 weeks. But it's like, no, that was my child. Like, you're gonna call her by her name
What's so
for
interesting
sure.
is that physically and emotionally, you're going through a birth. You delivered a baby. You said you were
Yeah.
induced the second time.
Yeah, the second time they induced me because I was losing him and they were gonna send me home um to do it at home. And I refused. I was like, I'm not going home. I was like, I'll sit in the emergency room, waiting room until it happens. Like, I'm not going home.
Right.
Um, so luckily they were able to get a hold of my personal doctor, and she did whatever she had to do and they admitted me to do it there.
So you
So
went through an induction, like you went through everything. So it's just,
yeah.
I know I'm harping on this, but it's just crazy that you go through, you're pregnant, you have hormones, you have a baby, you can see that it's a
Hmm.
baby, you're a second trimester loss, and they've
Yeah.
induced you. And then they're like, okay, have a good day. See you later. You can go home now.
What
And then what?
luckily with the first one, that's how it was. Luckily with the second two, it wasn't like that. At the
Yeah.
hospital I was at, it was, like I said, it was amazing given their circumstances, like how they handled it. Like, they actually treated me and my child like we were like, well, like, they treated my baby like it was a full grown baby. Like, they
Did
didn't treat it like anything less.
Did you get pictures, or it's so hard in the
Yeah.
moment? Oh, you did. Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
with both of them, I have, well, with the second and the third, with Ray and Lola, I have pictures. And I also have like measurements. They give you like little memory
Oh,
boxes. So I have that for both of them. And then with both of them, like, I got to spend time with them because they have like
oh, good.
the beds they bring and they have like the little coolers or something
Yes,
on them. So
it's a cooler. Yeah.
with Ray, I got to spend like a day or two with him. And then with Lola, the whole time I was
Oh,
in the hospital, she was right by me the whole time.
oh,
Like,
Tiffany,
she
I'm so
didn't leave me
glad.
at all. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
so
it was,
glad. That's
yeah.
like, again, it's a horrible situation. And you got, I mean, with Lola, you got the best of a horrible situation.
Yeah. I
And
really did. Yeah.
with Ray,
It made it
you,
obviously harder to leave because
yeah,
I had her with me there, but it's like, I mean, in the end, I still got to bring her home with us. So
correct.
it, yeah.
I'm so grateful that you're brave and strong. And I told you in the beginning, like, I'll try to be tender, but we're going to talk about tough stuff. And
Uh-huh.
I'm really grateful that you're strong and willing to have these conversations. What is your plan moving forward? What did they learn with Lola? Did they learn anything new? Because you knew about the blood clots and the cervix potentially. What's your plan moving forward? Because that was over 2 years ago.
Yeah. So I seen another, of course, another specialist afterwards, but he's apparently one of like the best ones in our area. He was out in Folsom, I believe it was. And he just said like next time we're going to do the cerclage 12 weeks.
Okay.
As soon as possible. If he can do it sooner, then sooner, but 12 weeks for sure. I'm going to be on the Lovenox, so the blood thinners to help with the blood clotting. And then from there, we'll assess like if he wants to do any like hormones to try and, thicken my cervix lining and like anything like that. So they're for sure, though, at least the cerclage and the Lovenox for sure is what I'll be on. To
What
hopefully
about bed
tackle the
rest? Any bed rest?
Um, that'll come as it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be just seeing what I need. I think I'll
Okay.
probably be obviously monitored a lot more.
Yeah.
Last time I was going in like every 3 to 4 weeks, and I'll probably be going like every week to every other week.
Yeah.
So just super monitoring. Luckily everybody at my work as well, like they know my situation, they know what I've been through. So even like the last time when I was pregnant with Lola, they were all very like, go sit down, like don't do anything. Like
Yeah.
just go in there and just relax. So it's like they all know as well like what I've been through. So it helps as well to have like I said, like I have a pretty good support system, like home, at work, like just everybody.
How is this affecting your husband? I think sometimes we
Um,
forget, like it's their loss too.
yeah,
They
I
didn't go
know.
through it the same way.
Yeah, which is definitely something that I've tried to like advocate for as well. That people, and a lot of the time, it's not even really that people forget about them. It's that they put on a face because, they want to be stronger for us. So,
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't show his emotions obviously as well as I do. He doesn't talk about things as much as me. So it's like for him, like I know because I know him, I know he hurts, but he doesn't voice that
Mm,
like I do. So, he does this more with him, like he just has moments where I can just like see it. So
yeah. I mean, men
yeah.
definitely, you're right. They want to be the rock for us. They don't process emotions.
Hmm.
They're not going through the physical, hormonal, emotional part of it that we
Yeah.
are. And they are oftentimes our primary support. There was a statistic I read that it takes, like, women immediately are dealing with the grief and loss, and it takes men like 30 months before they
Wow.
actually are processing it. And I mean, obviously, you men can be really, really involved and excited or sad or whatever, but you actually delivered them. You were the one on Pitocin. Like,
Hmm.
women, we go through all of it, and
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, but men get left out in the fact that they need help often because they've lost child
Yeah.
too. It's
Yeah.
not one
And I don't
way.
think like he really like, because with the first, I mean, our first one obviously for all of everybody included was, traumatizing, like I said, for the experience. But I don't think he really like really, because I think the last one was what hit us the worst. Because like I said, like we thought we had figured it out. Like, so I think with the loss of her, that was the one that really like got him.
Yeah. What has been have there been like best moments with the Facebook page? And uh, yeah, let's talk about that first. Have there been great moments? I mean, it doesn't change what you've gone through, but it's kind of helps to work with other women.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best moments I've had is having people on there that I've seen be on there since I started it and now they have babies.
Oh,
So yeah.
Tiffany. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm trying not to cry this whole time, but that one, um, yeah, that's the hope, right? The hope is the rainbow baby. The hope is that it doesn't erase your loss. because one of the worst things you can say to someone is, oh, well, at least you have other kids, or you can get pregnant again. And
Yeah.
there's all these things, right? But what a beautiful thing that's one of the best things that's come out of the group, because
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. I have close friends who I have a close friend who, it's weird, like we end up having like miscarriages like really close to each other. We were both actually pregnant with Lola. Like I was pregnant with Lola and she was pregnant with one of her babies at the same time. And we both had miscarriages.
Oh,
So it's like we both went through it together, and she just had her baby, oh goodness, I think he was like 7 months ago. So yeah, it's definitely hard, but like you said, like that's what I want. I want people to not like give up. Just like I know we haven't. I know we'll probably try like hopefully once more and that happens. I don't know about after that, like if we'll try again, but you really never know.
no, you don't. You can't walk it until you're there. And the fact, I mean, on
Mhm.
your page, your group, you talk a lot about never giving up and moving forward, and that it's
Mhm.
hard. So I figured that you were planning on trying again, and I didn't know
Yeah.
how spaced out everything was. I'm
Yeah. We don't really have a timeline. I think right now it's just we're not trying right now, but I know for me personally, I want to try again before I turn 36. So we'll have about a year and a half. So
yeah.
I know before then, but other than that, like the other ones, they were just like we lost David, we started trying, I think about 6 months to a year later. And Lola, it was just kind of something that just happened. Like we weren't really trying, but we weren't not trying. Um, so for the next one, I'm not sure when we'll try again, probably within the next year, I'm thinking.
Well, it was 3 in 3 years, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
2017. Yeah,
and
17, 18, 19, or 20. Yeah.
statistically 80% of miscarriages happen in the first 12 weeks. So you already,
Mhm.
like, you were in what most people feel like is a safe zone, and now like
Yeah,
you're
it's
going to have to be
not safe.
monitored. It's not, and I'm so sorry about that. I mean, I know
Yeah.
that all of us who have gone through it would pretty much do anything to take that away. I'm
Hmm.
so grateful for your group. You're pretty quiet personality. So I was really
Yeah.
excited you were like, you did this group and you have it, but I'm not,
Hmm.
this is not a put down. It's easy to hide behind that. And you haven't been as
Yeah.
vocal like in person. And I'm so grateful you were
Yeah.
willing to do this.
Yeah. Definitely not as talkative in person. But I do try to, but I
No,
definitely, yeah,
I
not as
was not
vocal
a
in
put
person.
down. Not everybody has to be like super vocal like I am.
Yeah.
I'm just really proud. I know that you like coming on and really sharing your story. It's hard, it's emotional.
Hmm.
You're more introverted. I'm so proud of you for
Yeah.
coming on here
Thank
and
you.
sharing and allowing me to ask really tough questions.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Well,
being on.
yeah, like you said, like the goal for me is just to like help other people. And even if it's like having to be vulnerable and talk about stuff that, we really don't want to talk about, but it helps. Because I know, like I said, for me, the most helpful thing was like finding out, like even people like that I didn't know, my family had lost babies as well, and then coming out to me and telling me what happened. Like it's like there's so many people that have miscarriages and lose babies that don't have anybody to talk to, like ever. And
It's
I
one in
mean, I,
four. It's 1 in 4
yeah,
pregnancies.
yeah. And it's like I have people that message me on our group page that, talk to me about stuff and like saying like they have nobody to talk to about it. Like their family doesn't care, or they, don't make them feel like anything they're feeling is valid. And, you know, it's really sad to me because like I said, like I've had people there for me this whole time. So to know that somebody doesn't have that, like I can't even imagine what they're going through.
Well, they have
Yeah.
your page and now they know who you
Yeah.
are, and
Yeah.
that you just have to search that out and advocate for what you need. Thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much.
Yeah. Of course.